The world watched with bated breath as tensions between the United States and Russia reached boiling point. Decades of mistrust, fueled by proxy wars and military buildups, had finally culminated in a standoff for the ages. The bone of contention was NATO expansion. Both sides engaged in a dangerous game of brinkmanship. Military exercises were conducted with alarming regularity. Nuclear-capable bombers patrolled the skies, their ominous silhouettes a constant reminder of the stakes. The rhetoric grew increasingly bellicose, with each side accusing the other of warmongering.
Under the cloak of darkness, the unthinkable happened. A preemptive strike launched from a secret silo deep within Russian territory. The target, a key U.S. military installation in Europe, the ICBMs carrying their deadly payloads soared high above the earth. The first sign of the attack came as a blinding flash, followed by a deafening roar. The sky turned a sickly yellow-green as the mushroom cloud rose high into the atmosphere. The world watched in horror as the unthinkable became a reality. The response from the United States was swift and merciless. The world watched in horror as the events unfolded with a speed and ferocity that left no room for hope. Within minutes of the first explosions, American ICBMs were launched in retaliation, targeting key Russian military and industrial centers. The precision and coordination of these strikes were a testament to years of preparation and the grim reality of modern warfare. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction, a chilling relic of the Cold War, was now in full effect. This doctrine, which had long been a deterrent, was now the harbinger of unprecedented devastation. The escalation was immediate and terrifying. The world had never seen such a rapid descent into chaos, with each side unleashing its full nuclear arsenal in a desperate bid for dominance. Nuclear submarines lurking in the depths of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans unleashed their deadly payloads. These silent sentinels of destruction had been waiting for this moment, their missiles now arcing through the sky towards their targets. Cities, once symbols of human achievement, were reduced to smoldering ruins in a matter of minutes. The vibrant life that once filled these urban centers was snuffed out in an instant, leaving behind only desolation and despair. The sky, once a source of wonder and inspiration, was now choked with smoke and ash, a testament to the self-destructive power of humanity. The sun, obscured by the thick clouds, cast an eerie glow over the devastated landscape. As the initial exchange subsided, a terrifying silence fell upon the world, and the silence was not one of peace, but of shock and horror as the survivors began to comprehend the magnitude of the destruction. The living envied the dead as the true scale of the catastrophe began to dawn. The survivors faced a world forever changed, where the very air they breathed was tainted with the remnants of the conflict. Section 4, Ground Zero, Immediate Impact and Devastation. At Ground Zero, the devastation was absolute. The explosion obliterated everything, leaving a barren wasteland. Cities like New York and Moscow became unrecognizable hellscapes. Streets once filled with life were now debris and ash. Buildings were reduced to rubble, their twisted skeletons reaching skyward. Iconic landmarks were mere shadows of their former selves. The air was thick with the stench of death and burning. The acrid smell of smoke and charred remains made it hard to breathe.
The lucky ones died instantly, vaporized in the unimaginable heat. Their suffering was brief. The less fortunate suffered burns and radiation sickness. Their cries echoed through the ruins. Hospitals became makeshift morgues, overwhelmed by casualties far beyond their capacity. Doctors and nurses, themselves victims, struggled to cope. They worked tirelessly, often without proper equipment.
In the aftermath, a strange silence descended. It was an eerie quiet, as if the world was holding its breath. Sirens, cries, and pleas for help were swallowed by the oppressive silence. Once vibrant cities were now ghost towns. Survivors envied the dead as they surveyed the apocalyptic landscape. Their eyes, filled with despair, searched for normalcy. The heart of civilization was ripped out, a stark reminder of the fragility of human existence and the power of nuclear weapons. The Section 5 fallout, the invisible killer spreading through land and air. As the mushroom clouds dissipated, a new and insidious threat emerged. Fallout. This fallout, composed of radioactive particles, began to spread far and wide, carried by the winds to places far beyond the initial blast zone. Carried by the wind, radioactive particles began their deadly journey around the globe. These particles did not respect borders or boundaries, infiltrating every corner of the earth, from bustling cities to remote villages. Invisible to the naked eye, odorless and tasteless, fallout contaminated everything it touched. It settled on the ground, on plants and water sources, and even in the air we breathe, making it impossible to escape its deadly reach.
Crops withered and died in the fields, poisoned from within. The once fertile lands turned barren, unable to support life. Farmers watched helplessly as their livelihoods were destroyed. Their fields turned into wastelands. Water sources became contaminated, turning the life-giving liquid into a deadly poison. Rivers, lakes, and reservoirs, once teeming with life, became toxic, killing fish and other aquatic creatures, and rendering the water unsafe for human consumption. Animals driven mad by hunger and radiation sickness roamed the ravaged countryside, their flesh unsafe to eat. These creatures, once part of a balanced ecosystem, now posed a threat to any human who came into contact with them. The effects of radiation sickness were slow and agonizing. People who were exposed to the fallout began to show symptoms days, weeks, or even months after the initial exposure. Hair loss, nausea, vomiting, and internal bleeding were just the beginning. As the radiation continued to wreak havoc on their bodies, more severe symptoms began to manifest. As the illness progressed, victims experienced excruciating pain, their organs shutting down one by one. The suffering was immense, and there was little that could be done to alleviate it.
The invisible killer spared no one. The young, the old, the strong, the weak, all were equally vulnerable to his deadly embrace. Families were torn apart, communities devastated, and entire populations decimated. The world watched in horror as the death toll continued to climb. Grim reminder of the long-term consequences of nuclear war. The impact was not just immediate, but would be felt for generations to come.